All right, take a good seat. A nice manual inner rotation of the thighs. Moves the thigh bones towards the back of the hip socket. You can roll to the frontmost. That allows you to roll to the frontmost and innermost edge of the sits bones. And that allows you to tilt your hips so the tailbone can lengthen into the space, toning the low belly, the pelvic floor, and allowing you to get a bigger sense of upliftment up through the spine. Hands on your thighs, arms are just hanging from the shoulders as the heart lifts, collarbones. And I'll play with this notion of leaning into what scares us. So clearly there's a lot out there that scares us. And it's so much easier. I talk about this a lot, probably because it's something I work with a lot as well. But it's so much easier for us to open up to what we like, what we want. Yay! Birthday cake, whatever it is you love, it's very easy to open up to that. The practice comes when things get difficult, and particularly when fear gets in the mix. And right now, I don't know, we're in scary times. And historically, it's really interesting to note that during the Spanish flu in 1918, people were rioting in the streets because they didn't want to wear a mask. They were told they ought to wear a mask. And there were people who said, no, I'm not going to wear a mask, or they didn't take it seriously, or they thought it was a hoax or not a real thing. It's like, wait, I felt when I was reading all of the headlines from 1918, I thought I was back in 2020. And it's that some singer-songwriter was on one of the shows, and one of the lines was, we seem to only learn the wrong lessons from history. So it's like we're repeating it. We just can't figure it out. And what was it, Jill, you said, or somebody said, isn't it interesting that in these intervening years, almost 100 years, that the best technology we have for protecting ourselves from the virus is still a piece of cloth or paper or something across. So there you have it. So as you know, to review, those of you familiar with psychology know about the responses to fear. And all animals, and humans, we are definitely animals, fight, flight, and often they often say just fight, flight, but sometimes people add freeze into it. So the fight, for me, is the anger. It's when people write in all caps on Nextdoor.com or Facebook, they're angry. And that builds up a lot of heat and a lot of stress and a lot of adrenaline. And it comes from a sense of fear. The fear makes you think you're certain about something. So we get very certain, very angry about something. And maybe we are correct, maybe we aren't, but it comes out in a very kind of vicious way. The flight, of course, is to just disappear. Well, the thing that kind of blows my mind is I can't go to Canada. Like nobody wants us. We can't go anywhere. So there's no flight, but there is sort of an emotional flight. I can binge watch for days on end. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but still, there's you can say there's no problem out there. It's not happening. It's the head in the sand kind of activity. And then the freeze is, for me, sort of a subset of flight, in that it's a numbness of just it's a kind of moving into total inertia, not being able to do anything. So we all have a tendency to go towards one or the other, but for me personally, I've hit all of those multiple times. Sometimes within 5 minutes, I'm in and out of all of them. So it's just a crazy time. So how do you settle and then just lean in? Because fear is about backwards moving. It's about moving away. It's aversion. So fear can show us what we need, our fears, or what we need to work on. What's interesting is a psychologist, one of the television psychologists or something, said, the thing is we all think that our personal reaction to fear is the right one. And I've done that. So it's like, we have to kind of accept that when we're in fear, we're not very logical. It's old brain stuff. It's back here. It's not the thinking, logical brain. It we revert right to the ancient brain. So our practice then is to lean in. So in yoga, it's a really great place to practice it because there's a number of poses we don't like much. Why we do yoga, why I do yoga when there's a lot of poses I don't like, I don't know, but there you have it. I have an aversion to certain poses. I think I can't do them because of injuries, but it may be that I have to adapt, but how do we lean in? How do we open up in softness? So in yoga, what we do is the first essential, we open. So everybody take a full deep breath. We've been talking about fear and you might have felt it kind of build in the body. You take a breath and you open. And then we step into our power. Once we clear the field, kind of back to the Bhagavad Gita, once we see the field, once we clear the field, then you can step into it with clarity, with knowing exactly what you need to do for you. And you're the only one that can determine that. So bring your palms together in front of your heart center. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Come to your breath. Notice, how is the breath flowing, moving? Where is it not? Take some nice, deep, full breaths. Long, slow exhales. And then you settle into your heart, the heart that knows how to be brave, not foolhardy, but brave. And when we open to the wonder of being alive, and that's being alive with all the really great stuff and the not so great stuff, it's all part of it. When we open to that, we live more fully. We experience our own power. So we'll inhale, exhale, cleansing breath before Om. Inhale, exhale, inhale to Om. Om. Next exhale, release the hands. Flutter the eyes open and come to hands and knees. Pad your knees as you wish. Come to hands and knees. Spread the fingers like the rays of the sun. Connect with the whole circumference of the palm. And then begin to round and arch the back. Oh. Motion initiates from the hips. Explore what's going on with the body. Are there places you say, oh, I can't go there, that's too tight? There's an old injury there. I'm not saying blast into it, but explore it. Move towards it rather than away from it. Find out more about what's going on. Make this bigger if you wish. To exhale your hips back towards your heels. Oh, feels so good. And maybe forward. And the next time you come through table, pause. Tuck the toes of the right foot, slide it back. Lift the right leg, stretch the left arm forward, and then exhale, draw the knee towards the elbow. And inhale, extend. Exhale, contract. Inhale, extend. Continue at your own pace, pausing at each point. So as you contract, just hug in for a moment. And then once you expand, just pause there and enjoy the expansion. Life is just a series of contractions. Yes and no's. Open, extend, close down, contract. The next time you come to bird dog, release, change sides, tuck the toes of the left foot, slide it back, lift the leg, stretch the arm, exhale, elbow towards the knee. And extend. Again, exploring with purpose, move with purpose and awareness so you know what's going on in the body. The body never lies, it stores everything. If we don't work it out, work through it, it'll come back in some form in the body. The next time you extend into bird dog, release back. Walk your knees about a handprint distance behind your hips, your hands about a handprint distance in front of your shoulders. Claw the floor, hug the thumbs towards each other, tuck your toes, and stretch the hips back towards crouch. Look up through your eyebrows, looking towards your thumbs. Hug the thumbs and the forearms towards each other like crazy, and widen the inner armpits away, and just lift the knees, hover them over without shifting the shoulders forward. Oh, and enough of that. Come on up and walk the dog, bending the knee. One knee, then the other, stretching it out. With the feet hip width or a little wider, keep the knees soft as you walk the hands back to the toes, forward bend at the back of your mat. Oh my gosh. Notice perhaps this is the first forward bend of your day, or it's been a while since you forward bended. Come up halfway, soften the knees, shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and on your next inhale, rise up, stretch up, full stretch. Press down from the core of the pelvis down through the legs as much as you rise up from the core of the pelvis through the fingertips. Release the arms. Interlace the hands behind the back. Steady the legs. So that's where the power, the firmness comes from. So the upper body can be more open. Shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, but notice the bottom ribs want to come with it. So pull them down, tuck them in, even as you're trying to stretch the collarbones up even more. And lift the arms, just standing. You can keep this, or if you want to bend and bow forward, or half forward bend and stretch the arms overhead. If it's easy for you to straighten the arms, then micro bend your elbows. Oh, just try to pull the elbows apart a little bit. Next, inhale, use the legs, hinge from the hips, and rise up. Release the arms, shake them out. Interlace the hands. Now, the second favorite way. So typically my right thumb's always over the left. So reverse so not just the thumbs, but the whole set of the fingers go over. It feels wrong. And then press out. So you're pressing out. Pull the head of the arm bones back as you're pressing through the wrist. Lift overhead, but lift slowly, because you'll notice if you lift too fast, a lot of times you just pop out. So you lift slowly, keep pulling the shoulder blades onto, hugging the shoulder blades on the back as you lift up to as far as you need to go, and still keep the alignment without doing something weird with your head. And release, shake off. Stretch both arms up. The right hand grabs the left wrist. As you stretch up first, we know we're going side to side, but get length first. Strengthen through the legs and arc towards the right. Breathe. So turn the head slightly like a slow oscillating fan. I notice sometimes I get a lot of tension in my neck in this pose because I'm like trying to hold it somewhere. So just explore where it is in the body. And as you press down on your inhale, rise up, release the arms, shake off. Side B, rise up. Left hand grabs the right wrist. First lengthen up and then down. As you press down, particularly through the right, arc over, keeping the shoulders stacked on top of each other. A tendency here is sometimes to roll forward. So it's better to come up and not go over as far than to go way down and start to torque the back. And soften the neck, move it side to side, back and forth a little bit. Just find some easefulness in there. Inhale, press down to rise up. Release, shake the shoulders. All right. Step to the top of your mat. If you have a blanket or a towel, make a roll. Tight roll. Or if you've got like a pool noodle, for those of you who are near a pool outside, or a not too big foam roller. The big foam rollers probably won't work. Step your right ball of the foot on the blanket, the heels behind, and then step the back foot. You may want your blocks here. And the heel comes up, so your heel is lifted, not down. inner rotating the back thigh. And then come into a bend, sort of a semi-lunge and a straighten. You can bend the back knee, I like that, but you can keep it straight if that works for you. It's a little easier on the back to bend the back knee. Keep stepping on the gas, press into the ball of the right foot a lot. You can even lift the toes. That will give you more engagement of muscles up the legs. And then play with your balance. Like it's harder when the toes are up on the roll. You can stretch the arms back, you can rest them on your sacrum, but lift the head of the arm bones. We tend to slump here. And you can also play wee, side to side airplane, right? And notice the fluctuation. Foot's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Because it's on a soft surface, it's giving. Just making the hip flexors work a little more. Ooh. And then step up, take both feet off and stand Tadasana mountain pose and just pause, notice. Step your other foot, left foot up on the roll, work the back foot back, and you're still on railroad tracks, not on a tightrope, so that both feet are, the feet are about hip distance apart or maybe a tiny bit wider. Use blocks as you need them or lightly touch, but there's no weight on the blocks. They're just there to keep you from falling over. You can reach for a chair in front of you and then go back, bending and straightening, and start to play with your balance. Oh. Spine is roughly parallel to the floor in that direction. Then maybe play crazy once you come into some version of it. Start to play crazy lunge, 747 lunge. Oh. And then step the back foot forward, slide the front foot off the roll, hands on your hips, shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and rise up. Oh. Release, shrug the shoulders. Move the blanket roll off to the side. Step to the top of your mat and inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, prepare. Step your right foot back, straight leg lunge. Spin the back foot down. Left elbow, left elbow to the left knee. Shrug the shoulders, scissor the legs, inner thighs move back, tailbone down, and then just joyously, it's like, oh yeah, this might not be your favorite pose, but from the core of the pelvis, you send the energy down through the feet, and from the core of the pelvis, stretch up through the crown of the head, stretch the top arm forward, pull it back, skim it along, and come into half beach babe. So a lot of times the elbow wants to reach to the ceiling, but pull it down to face me, or face the long edge of your mat, and then stretch it towards the short edge of the mat, keeping it close to your cheek. Push your head into your hand, hand into your head. Breathe. Now strengthen the legs. And here comes the, look ma, no hands, full beach babe. Elbows come in, pull the head of the arm bones back, push the head back and spin the heart, oh, and release. Spin it down, downward facing dog. And breathe. Step your right foot forward, straight leg lunge, spin the back foot down. Right elbow to the right thigh, scissor the legs, pull them in, inner thighs move back and wide apart. Make that space, and into that freedom, that space, tailbone lengthens. Oh, all the way to the inner back heel. From there, then, lengthen from the core of the pelvis out through the crown of the head. Top arm comes forward, pull the head of the arm bone back, and come into half beach babe. Push the head into the hand, point the elbow, bring the elbow, the inner arm more towards your cheek, and stretch the elbow towards the short edge of your mat. Push your head back into your hands. And then if you want to come into full beach babe, without moving anything. Gosh, it's great. Now curl back, spin the heart up. Strength, and then a little wildness. Inhale, release. Step back, downward facing dog. Shift forward, plank pose. Hover and plank. Lift your heels. You might walk your toes in just a tiny bit. Lift your heels and pull your knees in to where they hover just above the floor. Oh, soften the heart. The head's not dropping in desperation here, nor is it lifting, just neutral, and hover. Anybody have a joke to tell? Oh, and release all the way to the floor. Oh. Come up into forearms. You might say, oh, I hate the core stuff. So how do we lean into stuff we are averse to? Press the hands into the floor. Press the forearms down. The inner wrist press down as well. Hug the elbows towards each other. Isometrically, energetically, pull the elbows back to pull the heart forward. Tuck your toes. Lift your hips, bump your knees up just a little bit. Inner thighs move towards the ceiling and apart into the space. Scoop the tailbone and then hover the knees up. So you can't straighten them. It's actually a lot easier if you just keep the knees even kissing the floor. They might touch, but no weight on them. And breathe. And release all the way to the floor. Rest your forehead on your hands, windshield wiper the legs. Release any tension. Plant your hands. Tuck your toes. Shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and come into downward facing dog. Lift your left leg high, high, high behind you. Now steady the shoulders. The tendency here, as we start to lift the left leg, the right shoulder wants to droop. So you'll lift your inner right armpit more. The both outer armpits, outer shoulders wrap down as the inner armpits lift up, but the right one is the one that starts to give way. Bend the left knee, open the left knee in doggy style, male doggy style, anyway. Now notice the right shoulder wants to dip even more. Steady it, bring it up, hold it firm. And then start to open, keep lifting the right shoulder, it'll fall. Once you notice it, lift it, claw the floor with the hands, and open. Inhale, come back to center. Leg down, other leg, lift it up. Now the left shoulder, if your right leg is up, your left shoulder is the one that's going to want to give way. So you have to give a little more emphasis there. Hold it firm, hold it steady. Bend the knee, open the knee to the side. It's like you're stacking your hips, but your shoulders stay evenly, even from the ground. You're not dipping the left shoulder more. Open just a tiny bit more, even in your mind. And then on your inhale, come back to center. Lower the knees, knees apart, rest in child's pose. Stack your hands, rest your forehead, or your head is on a block. And inhale, stretch your arms forward. Tuck your toes, unfurl into downward facing dog. Bend your knees and step your left leg forward, straight leg lunge. Lower the back knee to the floor. If some of you have some kneecap issues, they don't like it, I call it Mary's solution. You make a roll and it's on the shin, not touching the kneecap. That's another option for knee comfort. Keep the back toes tucked, and that will keep more energy through the leg so you're not dropping so much weight into the knee. Bring the hands to the front thigh. Scissor the legs, inner thighs move apart, tailbone lengthens. If you tailbone lengthen a lot after inner rotating, you might feel a little more stretch across the back of the front of the back thigh, quadricep. And breathe. Stretch your right arm, so the same leg that's back. Stretch your right arm up, come into half beach babe again. Push the head into the hand and curl back. Use the left hand to push away on the top of the left thigh and curl back. Keep scissoring. If you feel this in the low back, you've lost the length of the tailbone. You lost the strength of the legs. Nice. Then rest the right hand on the floor or a block. I'm going to spin around. Left hand and begin to twist towards the front leg. If it's in your wheelhouse today, you can begin to lift the back knee, stretching the back leg long. It takes more weight, so you're a little bit too wide there. Yeah, Sherry, good. Yeah, it's like, woo, too much freedom. Yeah. Sherry was like this. She was like way out like this, and she was lifting. It was like, this feels a lot like a split. So no, the answer is no. No splits, at least not right now. And on your next inhale, release, step back, downward facing dog. Enjoy the dog. Be the dog. Inhale, step your right foot forward, straight leg lunge, lower the back knee, pat it as you wish, keep the back toes tucked, hands on the front thigh. Scissor the legs, so pull them into the midline. Inner thighs move back and the tailbone lengthens big time. That's so important because as we move into the back bend, you can go right into the low back. You want to feel it right up here in between the shoulder blades, the back of the heart. Stretch the left arm up, come into half beach babe, elbow forward, pull the head of the arm bone back, and push your head into your hands. Oh. And release the left hand down. Yep. Right hand and begin to spin towards the front leg. Again, if you collapse the back hip, you might feel some good stretch there, but you will eventually stretch into tendons and ligaments. So it's though you're trying to scissor the legs and lift the back knee as you spin. That'll keep a little more stability in the joints. We need more stability. Things are crazy. Exhale, release, step back, downward facing dog. So come to your knees for a minute or come down just to watch, just for a second for the plank. So for side plane rather. You can do this if it's killing your wrist. You can do it on your forearm, but you have to work a lot more into the shoulder. You have to really pull the head of the arm bone up. So you can do it both ways. But to get into position, if you're in regular dog position, which means your table is a little wide, you come into dog, you'll shift halfway in between plank and here's plank, here's dog. I'm halfway in between. Then roll to the outside edge of the foot. You can step the kickstand forward. You can come into walking Egyptian or stack on top. All right, come into downward facing dog. Enjoy it. And shift halfway forward, not quite the plank, halfway in between. And roll to the outside edge of your left foot. And place the right foot into the plank. Now check that your front, if your front wrist is directly under your shoulder, you will feel a lot of pinch in the wrist. So if you back the shoulder back a little bit to the back edge of the palm, it'll give you a little space. You can do kickstand, walking Egyptian, or stack. I'm choosing the middle way today. Hand on the hip, stack shoulder on shoulder, scoop the tailbone like crazy. Open the heart. And then if you feel particularly wild, open it up. Claw the floor with a standing hand and pull away from the floor, even though that chance we're going to do that. And then exhale, release, downward facing dog. You can rest in child's pose if you wish, or hold your dog. Side B, shift halfway into plank. Roll to the outside edge of the right foot. Kickstand down, claw the floor with the standing hand And do your best to shift your weight to the base of your index finger, base of your thumb. Draw up from the earth into the heart, and then turn the heart out. If you want to get wild, stretch the arm up. You can stack, walk Egyptian, and turn the heart, turn the belly up. Oh, and release. Downward facing dog to child's pose. Whew. Oh my gosh. Inhale, come back up. Come to lie all the way on your belly. If you want padding for the knee, into chameleon, or what were we talking? Maybe we should call this iguana, since we were talking about the iguana, talking about experiences with iguanas. So bring a leg up. I'm bringing my left leg up, but you can choose. You only have two choices. Most of us. All right, right angle at the hip, right angle at the knee, right angle at the ankle. So even though you can pull the knee up closer, just want it to come straight out of the hip. Come up onto your forearms. I like to keep my straight leg foot tucked because it helps me get off my knee. But if it's okay for you to put it down, you're still working the leg. It's not taking a vacation. And then as you scissor the legs, like what would it take if you tried to pull your legs together to the midline without moving them? Inner thighs move back. That gives you more freedom in the low back, and the tailbone can lengthen to strengthen and support the low back. Then just pause here. You can make it a little more intense if you want to come into cobra hands and come up from here. Me personally, not my favorite. I can get plenty of good stretch here. So come into your version that you want. And just notice. All right, come up onto your forearms rather. Oh, where should you be feeling it? Okay, so if you're not tight, you probably won't feel it much at all. But where I tend to feel it is down the straight leg side. So down my right side is where I tend to feel it more, because that's very tight for me. You'll feel it a little bit more if you perch up on your straight leg side arm, in my case, the right arm, the left arm, and begin to twist. And another way is to roll all the way to the outside seam of the leg, so your hips are stacked. Then the knee won't go to the floor for most of us, but it's kind of weighting towards the floor. Relax anything going on in the neck, and then you feel a little more side stretch there. Oh, I do anyway. It's very tight for me. So it's all for me. Just saying. Okay. And then roll back into full lizard and do the reverse twist. So your left arm is underneath you, perch up on the right, and turn away from the bent leg side. And you can even do, the triple stretch, where you thread the left arm underneath you. So the leg's going one way, the left leg's going one way, the left arm is going the other way. Big stretch across the outside of the shoulder, for me anyway. The head can rest on a block or on your hand, so the nose doesn't smash and you don't drop your head too far out of alignment. Inhale, back up. Oh. Stretch it out long, rest your head on your hands, wiggle your hips, and just notice if there's any difference between the two sides. And draw the other leg up. Oh. Again, you can come onto your forearms or come into cobra arms. For me, that's a bit more pinch on the low back than I want. So keep lengthening your spine, Jill, so you don't get too much pinch in the low back. Yeah, pull the head of the arm bones back and pull the chest through more. Yeah, deep. That's hard. Or you can stay on your forearms. I find this works just fine for me. I can still get a nice, it's a gentle stretch, but it's a stretch across, it's more the straight leg side psoas that we're getting, in my case, the left side. And then turn towards the bent leg. Oh. And you're moving the bottom ribs forward and then stretch them towards the mat. So you get a deep stretch in the side ribs. And then if you want to do the reverse twist, you can do the open twist, forearms out. That's probably about all this side's going to do. Or thread through and rest your head on a block or your hands. And notice in this pose where the breath goes and how hard it is to get a full, even, deep breath when you're in a deep twist. So if you cannot breathe, that's the first sign that you've gone too deep. So you maybe back it off a little bit, or you find a place to relax that allows you to find it.
Mariana, if we want more psoas, can we pick up the back foot?
Like
is that safe? Yeah, is that safe? It gets,
Whoa!
I know, it gets more psoas.
I like it. Thanks, Mary.
In a good way or bad way?
No, I like it as long as you're not feeling it in the low back. So if you bend your straight leg, so Mary was saying, what happens if you want more psoas stretch? Bend your straight leg up. So now this looks like really weird ski accident pose.
Luckily, you're the only person there that knows where I live.
That's right. So that's kind of nice, or it's not for you. All right, stretch it out, even it out, wiggle your hips back and forth. And if you want to do a moment or two of the deeper psoas stretch, bring the other leg up and just pull it up. So bend one knee up to the, so bend your other, so it would now bring your left knee up, Sherry, up to the side. Left knee up to the, just come back to that. Then bend this straight. Come up onto your forearms, push away and see if it gives you, it does increase the psoas stretch. And it's a perfect lead in for the next one. Thank you, Mary. Yes, I do know where you live. All right, come on down, rest. Plant your hands on either side of your chest like you're coming into Cobra. And wiggle the hips a bit and move the inner thighs up. So get a little bit of a pup tent with the bum. You're lifting the sits bones like you're trying to pull the hip crease away from the floor a bit. Then lengthen the tailbone to lengthen the low back. Bend both knees. The soles of the feet are moving up towards the ceiling. And even though as you bend the knees, you'll notice the hip crease will start to come way to the floor. See if you can lift it up by lifting through the inner edge of the thighs. And then shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, press your hands into the earth as you isometrically pull them back, and lift the upper body even a little bit, even if it's just a hair off the floor. Try not to pinch the back of the neck with that. So resist that to lift with the chin. Press the center back of the head like we were doing full beach babe, but I won't make you do that. That's too hard. Now, press the soles of the feet up to the ceiling as you maybe lighten the knees on the floor. Now lift the head of the arm bones, lift the chest, tailbone's got to work a lot, hover the hands off. Oh, really working, this is like back core work. The back muscles are having to work a lot here. The hamstrings are working, the glutes, and all of the muscles up the back around the shoulder blades. And release, shake off. So that's your, that's what you do if you're not doing full bow pose, if you're not holding on to your ankles. I find holding on to my ankles feels a lot easier after this, but this gives you this one, while it's easier on the knees, is a lot of work. So do it and keep, and just inhale, exhale, and take a rest or so in between. But for the rest of us, if we're crazy enough to venture on, bend both knees, reach back, take hold of either the top of the feet. The ankles are a little harder, but top of the feet work. And then try to flex the feet as best you can. Already I feel a stretch across the quadriceps, the front of the thighs.
Hug an imaginary block between your knees. Lift your hip crease off the floor a little bit, kind of perk the bum up, and then lengthen the tailbone down. Shrug the shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, kick the feet into the hands, and pull up. Inhale, lift a little more. The knees can lift off the floor, but don't let them splay apart. Keep hugging to the midline so you don't tweak the knee joint. And breathe here. There's a little bit of rock and roll going on, a little bit of movement on the breath. Not a lot, just a little. And then release. Shake off and push back into a child's pose. A nice knees wide apart, toes together. Rest your forehead on your hands. I like to rest it on a block because then the back of the neck and the back of my shoulder blades can soften. Belly softens to the floor. And inhale up. Roll all the way onto your back. Have a block near you. We'll do if you want to do pigeon upright, some of you prefer to do regular pigeon upright, that's fine. We'll do the series of half happy baby, which is like lunge or deep lunge, and then the cross baby cradle. So roll all the way on your back. Doesn't the floor feel great? And then get your natural low back curve. Bring the arms into robot, bend at the elbows, fingertips towards the ceiling, palms face each other. And as you press into your elbows, into your upper arms, you can lift the shoulder blades a little bit and snuggle the shoulders underneath you, then tack the head of the arm bones back down. As you press into your feet, I just gently, not so much that you get a hamstring cramp, they are cramp, pull the feet, press them into the floor and pull them slightly towards your hips so the inner thighs move more towards the heels and the sits bones rock more towards the floor. And into that space, the back waist should be off the floor, the tailbone lengthens long and the belly button moves down towards the floor, towards the spine, without smashing your back waist. Draw your right knee in towards your outer right shoulder, not quite towards your collarbone, but towards the outer shoulder. Then open the knee, half happy baby, either hold under the thigh or full half happy baby, inner knee, outer sole of the foot. Notice that the back waist on that side is pretty much smashed into the floor. So see if you can push the right foot into the hand a bit more as the right hand pulls it back to get a little bit more curve on the right side. Notice what's going on with the left leg. It wants to go on vacation and just rock out to the side. Keep it upright. You can also straighten the left leg if you want. It's up to you. Just open the hips. And then cross the shin over the torso and shovel scoop. So the hands hold the outside of the right shin, both hands, and the right elbow can snuggle then on the inner right thigh and push the inner right thigh away from the ribs, away from the belly, as the left hand is pulling the ankle towards your left shoulder. Now, where's your low back curve? If it's totally smashed into the ground, you have to let the leg come away from the chest a little bit. And then you can either straighten the left leg or you can go deeper into the pose. Sort of phase one is the left hand pushes into the right heel and the heel pushes into the hand as you're pressing with the right elbow, the inner thigh away from the ribs. Or full half happy baby pose. No, this is baby cradle pose, full baby cradle. You wrap the elbow, sole of the foot goes into the crease of the elbow, the opposite elbow, and then stretch from there. Now, if you go into the full baby cradle pose, the low back pretty much smashes into the floor. But what can you do if you wanted to try to get it back? It's like I'm trying to move my leg away from the chest as the arms are pulling it close, and that helps me get some remembrance of the low back curve, although it's still on the floor. And then release the leg, but cross the right leg all the way over the left. Come ride your Harley for a nice Saturday afternoon. The hands on top of the knees, the heels are back by your hips, so don't lift them up. Slide your hands down your shins and hold on to somewhere on the outside of the shin or the ankle. Flex your feet. And then here, let the knees come away from the chest so you get a little more low back curve. Press the shin up into the hands as you begin to move the shins more towards parallel. Should feel some good hip action there. And if you're not feeling enough, you keep your low back curve, but pull the knees in towards the chest, even as you're pulling the feet towards the shoulders. Oh. And then release. Shake off. Release. Side B. Keep cracking. Pull the left knee in. Half happy baby. Pull it in. You can either hold it under the thigh, again, if reaching up to the foot's not where you want to go today, pull it in. If you've got the arm on the inside of the left knee pushes into the arm, the elbow pushes back. That helps you get deep into the hip socket. He's still there. And then come into baby cradle or pigeon on your back. The shin comes across the body. The left elbow presses into the inner left thigh, pushing the inner left thigh away from the ribs, away from the belly, as the right hand is pulling the ankle. Don't sickle the foot. Keep the foot like you're standing in alignment. And then get your low back curve back. Stretch the right leg long if you want, or come into the deeper pose. Opening the hips. And then come into ride your Harley. So the thighs cross each other, hands, the heels drop down by your hips, hands on top of your knees, slide them down the shins until they stop. Maybe you can get to the ankle, maybe not. And then get your shoulder blades back underneath you and your low back off the floor. Flex the feet and start to press the shins into your hands. It's like the hands are pulling the feet down. The feet are trying to float towards the ceiling or the sky if you're outside. Get a little bit more low back curve by allowing the knees to move away from the chest as you pull the feet closer to the opposite shoulders. Oh. And release, shake it off. Feet mat width apart, knees bent, arms in a T position. Drop the knees over to the right and inhale, lift them to the center. Exhale, slowly lower to the left. Inhale, lift to center. The feet stay where they are, they're not moving. Exhale and continue. You exhale when you lower, inhale when you lift. Very slowly, easily, back and forth. With the breath. And the next time you come upright, don't hurry. Stay there. Get ready for bridge pose. You can always do a supported bridge if you want to slide the block underneath you. Otherwise, feet on the ground. Little Definitely feet are parallel, maybe a tiny bit pigeon-toed. How close your feet are to your bum really depends on how open you are and how your knees are feeling. I'm usually about halfway in between. I'm not very close to the hips. I'm just out at a comfortable distance, but I'm also not way out. So you bring them in until it feels like, yep, that's fine. I could sustain that. Bend your elbows, come into robot arms. Lift your shoulder blades, snuggle them underneath you, and tack the head of your arm bones back down to the floor. Low back is off the floor. Side ribs are moving towards the floor. That's connecting xiphoid to tailbone, engaging the core. As you press into your feet, the inner thighs move towards the heels, tailbone lengthens, and on the inhale, lift the hips just a little bit. Get reset, snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you a little bit more, inner thighs towards the heels, tailbone lengthens, and lift. Each breath, you do a little bit more until you come to your maximum. Notice what's going on with the head. So we're paying so much attention to lifting the hips that sometimes the chin tucks, and you see how it changes the voice. So you lift the chin enough, not so much that you're straining, but you lift the chin enough that the center back of your head presses down. And the chin's pointing straight to the sky. And breathe here. If you're doing the supported bridge, place the block under your sacrum and enjoy the lift. The next exhale, release the hips to the floor and do any movements you want to do before final relaxation. If you want more twist, hug the knees in, roll back and forth to massage, and set yourself up so you're comfortable. If that means a bolster, a blanket under your knees, anything that works for you. If you want to do legs up the wall, if you have a wall, do that. Get yourself settled and bring your awareness to your breath. And take a few moments to scan the body. If you're uncomfortable, that's not going to get any better. So find something to support yourself. If you're feeling this in the low back, that's where a bolster or some cushions, maybe a couch cushion or so under your knees, helps release that strain.
Begin to deepen your breath. As the breath deepens, bring gentle movement to your fingers and toes, hands and feet, stretching your arms and legs, moving your head side to side, and stretching. Gradually draw your knees into your chest and roll to your side, resting there, curled up in your own arms, drawing in the benefits of your practice. And as you're ready, roll a little more towards the floor. Use the strength of your arms to press yourself up to protect your back, and sit well. There's a favorite Pema Chodron quote that I like. It's feelings like disappointment, embarrassment, irritation, resentment, anger, jealousy, and fear, instead of being bad news, are actually very clear moments that teach us where it is that we're holding back. They teach us to perk up and lean in when we feel we'd rather collapse and back away. Draw the palms together in front of the heart center. Thank you guys for practicing at home and here in the studio. Namaste.
Namaste.